in Philly, John Zannis. Game 4, in a remarkable fashion, a game, Bobby, they both had no business winning and also somehow completely blew at the end. We're going to start at the end, just kind of walking through what kind of happened in those final moments, and work our way back, I guess. This show is brought to you, as always, by FanDuel, our exclusive wagering partner. Get a no sweat first bet up to 10,000 bonus bets when you make your first wager at fanduel.com/Boston. Make sure you sign up there. Let's get into the game, Bobby. And that final sequence, I all the way through it, and I'm just curious your thoughts. One, the only thing you cannot do is leave an open shooter. You concede the Embiid bucket. You don't even foul him. You just play straight up D and you let him have it. Brown cheating off of him and leaving Harden open was a grievous error. That's number one. You accept the tie and you play double OT if you have to. You got tons of time on the clock to get a good shot. That was terrible. The no timeout and then running nothing resembling a play and not getting a shot off is disgraceful. You make fun of teams that do stuff like that.
Too slow in the play too.
You can't trust Joe's idea of trusting his players and letting them do it on their own doesn't work if they're going to get into it that slow. So if you're not going to call the timeout, you got to diagnose we're not doing anything here and call that timeout. And they didn't do that, and they didn't get a shot off. I mean, they were about to steal a game. They had no business winning. They showed great heart, good determination, and absolutely did everything wrong in the last 30 seconds. I cannot believe it.
Yeah, and they got bailed out by White doing the same thing a play or two earlier, midway through overtime, off Harden. Now, if you want to do that off Tucker or off even Harris or whoever else is out there for Philadelphia, Maxey, that's a good choice. They did it twice off Harden. And the situational awareness there by Brown, who was so good again tonight on both ends, to double in the paint, up 2 off Harden, wide open in the corner. I mean, Harden is a killer this year on catch and shoot threes. And they would give him a wide open look in the right corner for the win. And that's tough after the game Brown had with the mindset of staying with Harden no matter what. Screens, up the floor.
I mean, do you not look again? We're talking about people, and at a certain point, they're talking about the IQ of the team and X, Y, and Z, and like that is just some dumb basketball. And I hate to pin it on Jalen, who's been outstanding, and also was taken out of the game by the Celtics in the second half. In an extremely
That's why I bring up White. He did the same thing a couple plays before.
And White did it too, but Jalen did it there at a time when situationally you could live with 2. You knew you could live with 2. You knew you could live with 2 and get the ball back. The only thing you can't live with is a go-ahead 3. You can't do it. You can't live with an and one. There's 2 things in your head there as a player. Don't foul and don't give up the 3. Don't leave a shooter. Doing that is brain dead. I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean, just absolutely just 101 stuff.
Yeah, and I like the last shot. As you said, you got to just get into it quicker.
I don't like the last shot. Marcus Smart contested 3.
Really?
I mean, no, look, it wasn't I like the last shot in regulation, the Marcus 3. Yeah. That was a good drive and kick on a wide open look. That game sitting there on a platter. I'll take that look at the end of the game. Absolutely. That last one was rushed. Marcus jacked it because he had to. That's not a high percentage look. So they didn't work for it. It just ended up in his hands.
It's so rushed because it's so late. And Harden gets out there kind of, but he doesn't have a hand up on Smart.
No, but it's late. It's already over at that point. Philly played the necessary defense at that part. By the time the ball gets out of Tatum's hands, the game is over. It's over.
Yeah.
They've already won the game, so it doesn't matter who contested Smart. That wasn't a shot you would actually get because it wasn't that it didn't matter.
Yeah. And this goes back to something we've talked about for a long time on here in terms of the Celtics crunch time offense is how effectively the opposing team can get the ball in the Smart's hands late. And he had it for numerous possessions down the stretch of this game and did a ton with it. The end one, 2 threes late in the fourth quarter. You probably couldn't have asked for more from Smart
Smart
in
played
those
well.
spots. Yeah.
Yeah, but
It's
that's the
just the notion that
strategy.
you can get the ball out of Tatum's hands in those situations. And yeah, he got one to Horford too. The Horford rimmed out on. I don't hate the offense late, besides waiting
I
on
do,
that last
Bobby.
play.
Bobby. It's the same thing we talked about. You walk it up the court, you set a screen, you get it to Jason, top of the key, and there's 8 or 9 seconds left on
You
the
make it
clock
too easy to
to
load
figure
up
out what
on
to
him.
do.
Yeah.
Everybody sees it. Everybody knows what's coming. The double comes, and by the time it's out of his hands, whoever has it next has 6-7 seconds to figure out what to do. So they either have to take something rushed and out of their comfort zone, or drive and kick to somebody else who barely has enough time to catch and shoot. They've been bailed out in those situations by making a couple, but that's not the right offense there. It's just,
Yeah.
and you took we spent all this time last game, Bobby, talking about how great it was getting the ball in Brown's hands and how he was making things happen. Brown gives that quote to you post game saying, yeah, I'm wasted standing out in the corner in 3-point land. What happened the entire second half? Over there, Jalen, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. All half. 5 shots in the second half, 3 in the fourth quarter and overtime, none in OT.
I think he had 2 in the second quarter too. He had a long lapse without a shot in the second quarter. Yeah, so his final numbers come out to, in comparison, the rest of the team: 20 for Tatum, 16 for Brown, and Tatum turned around a horrifying start. Well, he finished with 24, 18, and 6, 4 blocks. I like the way he stayed in the game after one of the worst starts we've seen from him in the playoffs here. The passing late, again, if you want to invert the offense and put it in Brown's hands and have Tatum off the ball in those spots, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. But in terms of what Tatum saw in front of him and what they did, I do think he made the right plays in those spots. Like, I'm not coming away from this one freaking out about the offense late, even though that last possession kind of hurts.
I want both things to happen. The point is, what are you trying not to be is predictable. So
right.
Don't do the same thing every single time. Just run your offense. You don't just give it to one guy. You're doing the thing where even if it worked sometimes this game, you're doing the thing that's been proven over time not to be a great thing, not to be a great strategy, which is let Tatum run the offense. Let it run through him. It doesn't work. It has not worked. We've seen it for years now, Bobby. So I don't get doing it. And you're taking other people out of the game. You completely neutralized Jalen, who's been the best player in the series. Completely neutralized him. So I really don't understand that thinking. I really don't understand the thinking. So again, bad execution on the last shot. Bad on Jalen, just a brain fart, or Joe not drilling it into them like, no threes. I mean, you really should know that, but anything you mention is going to be, and the chat's lit up, and my mentions are lit up with, should Joe have called a timeout? So what's your take there?
Yeah, you want to draw something up there, especially if it's going to look as frenetic as it does there. You have to think they didn't have anything in their pocket in that spot. At the same time, they didn't want to slow things down. So you ended up slowing it down anyway, so I don't think there's any downside to calling a timeout there. I'm going to say you should have. And just to throw these numbers at you, John, because of what ended up happening in this game, and these aren't updated, of course, with this game. This was after game 1. But Boston Sports Info threw out those crunch time stats over the last 2 seasons for the Celtics. And what we're talking about, the way defenses get the ball out of Tatum and Brown's hand, too, in these situations. And this is only going to be accentuated by what happened here tonight. Smart, 3 for 15. Horford, 4 for 11. Brown, 3 for 9. Tatum, 2 for 6. So Smart and Horford are taking this team's crunch time shots. And they're open catch and shoot threes more often than not. But in these situations, you do want Brown and Tatum generating high-quality looks for themselves. And that's what's not working here. There's a lot of stuff that's not working for this team in crunch time. But that's one of them, is that these defenses can easily funnel the ball to Smart and Horford. And as you said, John, a lot of that is that it's predictable.
Yeah. So it's hard to focus on anything else because you're just looking at the end of what was a winnable game. And it's not just those last couple possessions, that last sequence. You'll see the inability to get an offensive board when you could have really locked one up. Horford had a three literally go down and out. Just a couple of strange moments there. The Celtics, I would say, for everyone who sits there and complains all game long about officiating, Celtics got the benefit of what I thought was literally the same exact call that went the other way in game one with Smart and Maxey. I felt that he was shuffling at the last second and still leaning into it and just got there, if not a second late. And the same exact thing with Embiid. Fortunate that they got that one, and then Tatum with a blatant push off on that three on Maxey gets away with that one too. Huge break. You look at the last 2-minute thing. I wonder what they're going to say about all of that stuff. So Celtics,
the ref was standing right there too, very strange.
Right in front, right there, and just let it go. And it was egregious. So they got away with that, but they still had it in the bag, and really.
And you want to
really
put this away. You want to go up 3-1 because more likely than not, of course, it's coming back here for a game 6 now. But you're probably looking at a 7-game series. The way this series has looked so far, you do have one blowout in game 2, but game 1, 3, and 4 highly contested. Doc had some comments at practice yesterday that I loved about how he was telling Shake Milton, what's the closest possible series for 3 games? What would the series be? And of course, it's 2-1. So Doc came into this game here sensing how close this series has played out, and it has been a pretty competitive, tight series so far, despite all the matchup advantages the Celtics have here and how difficult this is for Philly. Embiid down the stretch, wearing down. They had to push him 40 minutes here. Horford got the best of him on some key isolation plays late, couple blocks. He ends
Horford
with 5.
blocked him 3 times in the fourth quarter. So they started playing Embiid with just, Al, the Embiid stopper, and that was working. Just play him straight up. He's going to get his,
So tough to squander that performance by Horford here. He had the driving dunk and the shimmy. We'd be already deep into our Horford conversation by this point if the Celtics won this game. Instead, it's another lost opportunity for this team. Not only you get out of this series quickly and wait for the Knicks and Heat to beat each other up, but you're putting, I think at this point, your ability to win this series at risk. And I think we both look at this,
obviously,
John, probably and say, I think we both look at this and still expect the Celtics to win this, but it's highly up in the air now. Embiid has hit his stride. Harden figured out his offense again in this game after escaping from that brutal 2-game lull. And other guys made key plays late in this game too. Tucker's putback. Harris, I thought, had a few nice shots through the flow of this game. And Maxey got comfortable at times too. The Sixers woke up here tonight, and you could have put them away by winning here, and to squander that with some questionable crunch time execution again. This is the kind of stuff we talk about, John, that I think limits all of our faith in this team winning a championship. So this isn't a disaster here. I think Philly made some tough plays late, and the Celtics missed some good looks late in this game. This isn't one of these games, and we've certainly had these, John, where we're freaking out after a tough loss, but it is a big lost opportunity, I will say.
Missed opportunity for sure. Josue, were you in on Joe?
Yeah.
All right, so let me guess. He got really defensive
surprises
when people asked about the timeout.
Wait, what was that? Say it again.
Let me guess. He got really defensive when people asked about the timeout.
No, but very dismissive. It's just not a big deal in his mind. He also talked about, he was also asked the fact that Jalen didn't get many touches down the stretch, and he said that, look, it's the flow of the offense. He's not upset with the way things went down. I asked him if he would change anything about the offense in that fourth quarter, or especially in that overtime period, and he said no. And that doesn't surprise me, John. That's just who he is. He's been saying this all year long. It's not about making sure you get the ball to Tatum or Brown, down the stretch. It's just about whoever's open in the best available shot. And the epitome of, like, the way that last play went down is so Joe Mazzulla for Marcus Smart to get that. The only difference is he wanted it to go by a little quicker, obviously. Wanted to get into that play quicker for him to have enough time to get that off, which obviously wasn't the case. So,
I mean, what do you mean he wanted that? He didn't. It's not like that's just what they ended up with. You don't call timeout and you let him just kind of figure it out. That's just how it went. So that was Tatum.
According to him, that's the way the play was supposed to go down. But I'm with you too, John. I don't know. I don't know if that's the
Bullshit.
case.
If the defense reacts differently, Tatum's got options at that point. If there's a double, you pass to an open guy, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
He kicks it to Smart when help comes his way. So no, give me a break, Joe. That's what you wanted to have happened. I mean, that's what happened. The issue wasn't with the play wasn't executed. The issue was it was doomed from the get-go because you went too freaking slow. So when you see things unraveling, I'm not a call timeout every single time sort of guy, because we've seen them coming off timeouts do the same thing. They'll just set it up to Tatum, stand at the top of the key, and they'll move slow also. So it's not like you're going to come up with some wizard play there, but if you're going to trust your players to do stuff late in games, the two most critical points, as we said right off the top here, Josue, is are you in trouble?
No, I'm good. I'm just telling this guy. Sorry, you go.
The two most critical points were Jalen not recognizing the situation when he doubles Embiid and leaves Harden open. That was obviously a no, and I'm not sure if Joe was asked about that because that was just a blatant error.
He wasn't. I wish someone asked him about it too. And after these type of losses, he got in there quickly. The room wasn't even packed. But yeah, no one asked him about that. But that's a fair question too. But man, what a performance out of Al though. Just how many times did he stop and beat at the rim? And it's tough to see the Celtics waste this opportunity.
Wasted.
I saw this game going down the stretch, but I just had the feeling the Celtics, everything was in their favor to win it. But between Tatum finding his offense in the second half and him continuing to attack, man, I love that out of Tatum. Last year, I don't know if that happens. Maybe he settles for more 3-pointers, but he never did that in this one. Never in that second half to find his offense.
Yeah.
It was tremendous.
It's fine. I mean, there's no question he turned it around. And I think, to his credit, he didn't, there was a lot of hand contact in the first half. He wasn't he wasn't getting calls. I think he was getting stripped clean a couple of those times, so there was nothing to complain about. But he didn't lose complete composure. He was just horrible and ineffective. You really don't want to ever see a first half like that. Totally redeemed himself in the second half. A lot of it started with defense, some key blocks, like you said, ton of rebounds. So obviously that was fine, and then he started to score a little bit, which was great. I mean, he got the first 2 buckets of the third quarter to get himself kind of, back on track a little.
Yeah, man. Like one of my favorite sequences when he knocks the ball loose, runs all the way down the floor, and gets that bounce pass from Marcus. Man, like these guys were just connecting. They were on the same page, and they had all the momentum in their favor.
Yeah, not an effort game. They executed poorly. They didn't hit what open looks they had. Defensively, Sixers figured some stuff out. Harden started taking advantage of the paint, and hit some of those shots that he wasn't taking the last 2 games. Embiid looks like he's never missed a day, so he looks back to his normal self.
Yeah, he's back, man. I mean, I don't know how long he could ride on, how long that knee's gonna sustain this, but yeah, back-to-back performances, man. It was huge.
Yeah. Again, I just, the problem with Tatum in the second half that he had is everything ran through him, and Jalen got taken out of the game. As we mentioned, 5 shots in the second half, 3 in the fourth quarter, 0 in overtime. Can't have that.
That can't happen. Why do you think that is? Does it really come down to that where it's just like, oh, well, Tatum's cooking, so
when Tatum runs the offense and screens come for him, he has to make all the reads, and Brown's job is to sit there in the corner. That's just what he does, because the screens that are coming from him is either is like Al or Marcus, and then he just goes, and that's just how the offense lays out when the ball's in his hands. If you let point guards run it, and again, we've talked about this over the years, how rare it is for Tatum and Brown to screen for one another, which I don't understand why that doesn't happen a little bit more, because you'd think worst case scenario is one gets freed up or one gets a switch in a matchup that is preferable. Right. So it is odd that's the offense that they run, but that's what happened. Jalen just disappeared again a day after kind of saying, like, I'm useless just standing in the corner, and I'm much better with the ball in my hands. And they took the ball out of his hands. I don't get that.
Were you surprised that he didn't put Brogdon back into the game? I had a feeling he was going to
but they were going offense, defense there, and when they got the ball back, they kept him in on the defensive end. But yeah,
I feel like he forgot to put him back in.
And I think he forgot.
Yeah, I really do. Derek White was just sort of like a ghost in some parts of this game where he had 12, but it just felt like Brogdon was really locked in. Especially in that second half, he picked up that foul. You could see he was kind of getting frustrated with himself because it seemed like he can't breathe on James Harden without picking a foul. But I don't know. I would have liked to see him finish that game. Maybe it's him taking that last shot instead of Marcus. But yeah, it was just, man, this one really came down to the wire, and it's very similar to what Bobby and I were talking about when we previewed this game. How can the Sixers, how can Doc rather maximize James Harden to get what he did, to duplicate what he did in game 1 or anything close to that, while maximizing Joel Embiid? I knew going into this one that he would be able to duplicate what he did in game 3, but to take it another level, especially down the stretch, that's what they essentially needed. Yeah, other guys made big plays as well. What was it? Tucker making the big play down the stretch, and just great defense overall to really, it took a while for Tatum to find his footing in this game. And you got to credit him for that.
Well, he was being guarded by Tobias Harris in the first half a lot, which was crazy. He couldn't even
get to work. Yeah, that's true.
He couldn't get to work on Tobias, which was, I don't know if that was a sign of disrespect. Like, we don't even need to worry about him. But, I don't know.
Yeah, he was battling down low, too, and he was just missing a lot of layups. What was it, 0 for 5? Just couldn't get those layups to go. But that didn't stop him from continuing to do the same thing, though, right? What he had, 1 for 6 from 3. You look at the box score, especially in that halftime or going into midway through the third, you're expecting him to see like 0 for 7 from behind the arc. But no, man, he stayed with it, and it's unfortunate that they were unable to. They came up short here, because this would have been a heck of a game to pull off.
Yeah,
heck of a win.
It would have been a heck of a win. Anything else coming out of Joe?
Just talking about the late game execution. That's really what I feel like everyone's going to pinpoint, especially when you look at Jaylen Brown barely in the mix. Is that more of the Sixers defense, or is that just not Joe Mazzulla calling that timeout? Maybe not specifically at that point for the final play, but at some point throughout those last couple of possessions, whereas it seemed like he just wanted to ride the wave and have his guys figure things out on the fly.
Yeah. We mentioned Joe talking about the execution and what was going on there. I'm going to play Joe here on that. And let me see if I can tee it up. Here's Joe Mazzulla about the late game execution, what he thought of it. Give me 1 second right here now.
Is there any regrets about the late game execution, either in regulation or overtime? Yet, regulation, 2 smart threes and then there's 2 free throws, so Tatum and Brown didn't touch the ball. And in overtime, the last plays, or anything you would change?
No, it was great execution.
You guys can't hear me, can you? Can you
We
hear me?
can. We can. Can you,
man? What's up,
I can't
bro?
hear you. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Oh, he can't hear us. We can hear him.
All right. I'll take Sherrod off. It's Joe.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like you look at that overtime, the way things went down. I don't think Joe would change it. I don't think he would change things. I think he just looks at it as, man, we were that close, but that's the way I want these guys playing no matter what,
Sure, but he's wrong. It's like, you want the game in the hands of your best players. You want to make sure
especially at this level, man.
And you want to make sure your players know what they're supposed to be doing. So again, I'm sorry, it's not good at late game execution when you gave up that 3 and then when you couldn't get into your offense. Both of those things are objectively bad. They are. So there's no reason there to pretend that it's not. Like, Jaylen made a bad mistake late. After Tatum's 3. Tatum's 3 should have been the game winner, or at least, whatever. Jaylen makes a very bad mistake, and then they are extremely slow getting into their offense. So that's not good late game execution. I'm sorry.
Yeah, especially because in that moment, too, you can just take a deep breath, maybe get a cup of water, just relax for a second, and then go back into it. Whereas, in the fourth quarter, I get it. Whereas the Philadelphia, the 76ers were on their heels, and you don't want to rock that. I didn't expect them to call a timeout. And I'm like, you know what? That's probably good for the Celtics' chances. It's too bad that smart 3 didn't fall. Great execution, great play by Jason, but it almost seemed like, I don't know if you noticed this too, John, but it almost seemed like he saw someone there open, and then when he turned and he saw his Marcus, he's just like, it was like, please make this. I have to make this play, but I really didn't know it was Marcus there. It is too bad because he gets a second chance and he gets it. He connects, but just you could tell just from the eye test that he didn't get that off in time. But
it was very clear. You knew it as soon as it got to his hands. So
and Mazzulla said the same thing too. He was asked and he said, "Yeah, I knew right away." So yeah.
Yeah,
you want to see things. You want to see these guys go into that faster. You call timeout. I just can't. You can't.
That's kind of what it comes back to. You can't. It can't be both.
Right.
It can't be both. I'm not saying the right move is to call a timeout, but you can't not call a timeout, then have it go that way and
Right.
say you liked it. No.
If they went a little bit faster, it was like, well, you couldn't tell them that because you didn't call timeout, Joe,
Yeah.
did you? You know, it's like
it's what's the worst execution you could possibly have late in the game when you're down? Not getting a shot off. It's literally the only thing you could do. The only thing you could do that guarantees failure. So
nothing
whatever
else mattered. No matter what you did to get to that point, it doesn't matter because you didn't get it off
the
in time.
two things that needed to happen, you couldn't give up a 3 the possession before, and you couldn't not get a shot off. It's both of them were epic failures.
And did they need a 3, John? They didn't need a 3, so that makes it even worse.
In
It's
a
like,
very objective way. There is no, it's not a matter of opinion. Both things were the worst thing you could do in each situation, and they both happened late in the game. So don't tell me the execution was good. Defensive execution was terrible, switching off of Embiid because you give up that 2, and you don't leave Harden in the corner. And the end of the game, you get a freaking shot off. This is objectively horrible late game execution. So I don't understand. And I'm not pinning the loss on Joe. I'm saying the players out there didn't do it either. Like, you're out there, man. Like, it's not all on Joe to tell you do this, but it can't be both. He either takes a timeout to make sure you know what the hell you're doing, or you know what the hell you're doing. But they clearly didn't, because they made 2 grievous errors down the stretch. So, I mean, I don't know where to go with that. It's not about what Joe says, and it's not his fault, but give me a break about the good execution.
I mean, you look at the guys that were out there too. I'm not saying that he should have subbed guys out, but look, 44 minutes for Brown, 47 for Tatum, Horford almost 40. I mean, besides White, everyone played around 40 or over. You know, they just needed a breather at that moment. You know, and again, I'm not surprised that he didn't do it. But when you look back on it, it's one of those things where you're like, is he ever going to do that? Is he ever going to call a timeout in that moment, or the second to the last possession of a game? Never mind the very last one. Just to rally his guys, just to give them a breather, especially in overtime. Again, that's the emphasis I want to continue to make. In overtime, in those moments, in the playoffs, when the crowd's against you, and you have a chance to grab a 3-1 lead, there's a lot on the table, a lot riding on that possession. Really good time to call a timeout and just to regroup. I don't know. It's something he has to consider moving forward. He's not going to tell us, though, right, John? He's not going to say to the media, when he does make a decision, or if he ever does, but it's something that he really should consider.
I mean, yeah, no, I hear you.
Want it to be like a game where, like, I'm not saying this game could cost him a series, but what if it was one of those moments, right? What if we're talking about a game 5, a potential game 5, which could still happen, whether it's in this series or the next one.
All right, let's hear. We're gonna hear Joe now. We're gonna hear Joe on the 3-pointer now. Let's see how much he wanted that to happen, and it happened according to plan.
Those plays like that last Harden shot, when you are talking to the team about how you want to approach it in the huddle, how much are you telling them, like, we want to do it exactly this way, versus, like, if you see something, go for it, make it?
No, I mean, I think in a situation like that, you just want to make the best play possible. Yeah, and so the guys, we communicate that as a staff. The players communicate that. We just want to make the right play.
So again, you want to make the best play possible, but you left a guy who had 39 points and was cooking you all night from 3 open, instead of possibly forcing a tie by just allowing Embiid to go up, and if he makes it, and you got a chance to win, or it goes to double OT. Again, just an objective fail on the part of the Celtics. And Sherrod, and this is I haven't moved off the last 30 seconds of the game because I just can't wrap my mind around both leaving Harden doubling down on Embiid and leaving Harden open, which was just a terrible decision by Jalen, and then call timeout, not call timeout, doesn't matter. What happened after it, when the Celtics were too slow to get a shot off, it's literally the only thing you can't. Both instances are literally the only thing you can't have happen, right? You can't give up a 3, and you can't not get a shot off late, and both happened. So I can't move off of this right now because the rest of the game doesn't matter at this point.
It was a perfect storm for destruction if you're the Celtics. I mean, Embiid did exactly what he's supposed to do, which is draw attention. And James did exactly what he was supposed to do, which is knock down the contested shot. Listen, when you look at this game, it's in entirety. Philly deserved to win this game. They played better for longer. And the Celtics, they had an opportunity to steal this win because they played basically one really good quarter. And we know the deeper you get into the postseason, opportunities to knock teams out and beat them are fewer and far between. You have to take advantage of that. This was a game that the Celtics had a chance to steal. They didn't win this game. They had a chance to steal it.
Absolutely.
Because Philadelphia played a better game. And that's why I can't have that. I can't be mad about this because this is how, based on basically 36, 38, 40 minutes of play, this is the outcome that should have been.
Yeah,
I can't be mad about it.
You're not wrong, and it's not a matter of that, but it's like it's almost the reverse of how many Celtics games we had this year where they played like ass and then we're going to light them up on the show and they end up winning and we're like, I guess we can't do that. And now it's the opposite. They got beat. The Celtics, I didn't think they didn't play hard. Sixers played better. Sixers made more of their open looks. Celtics couldn't make theirs. Their offense was disjointed. I went down.
Speaking of disjointed, like on cue.
I went down. We're going back to the FaceTime camera.
Wait.
That is poor.
There?
That is poor execution.
Did you double tap?
No, my webcam fell off the top of the.
So John, that wasn't quite the execution you were looking for.
Guys, honestly, at least I'm not dribbling all over myself this show, so that's an improvement over last show.
John's like, no more beverages during the show. Then
I can't. I'm so dry right now because I'm afraid to drool all over myself like I did last game. It was so embarrassing. I look back at the replay and I've just got like water, just blotches all over my shirt.
But you weren't thirsty though.
I'm so thirsty right now. After this point, I got to run and get a drink.
The Celtics are a little thirsty too right about now.
Sherrod, you're not wrong, but it still hurts because it was theirs. They had it won, and they didn't. You know.
It was, and I think even at halftime when they were down by, I think it was 9, you felt as if Philly had given them their best shot, and the Celtics weren't playing anywhere close to what they're accustomed to, and they're only down by 9. I mean, the fact that Tatum was like, I think 1 for 9 shooting at that point, you're not going to be in too many games when he's playing, and you had Jaylen Brown with the foul trouble, so they had opportunities to claw their way back into it, and they did that, but they didn't get it done when it mattered most in those last critical seconds. And I think with the Embiid thing that you're talking about, I think a lot of that's just muscle memory. They're so accustomed to him getting the ball and doubling down. But to your point, John, that particular point in the game was like Al Horford defense at an elite level. Al was doing a phenomenal job. Where's Bobby at? Defending Joel for the most part down the stretch. And I thought they were just going to let Al just go to work. And if he scored over Al, then he scored over Al. You could live with that. So I was a little bit surprised that they did the double team. And I think Joe probably gives them the flexibility and freedom to make that call on the fly. I'm not sure why Jaylen made that decision because he really – not even in hindsight, but just in a very general sense, the way Harden was cooking, you stay at home at your guy at that point.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
yep.
But the flip side is that they would have been down by 20, 25 points in the first half if it wasn't for Jaylen. So, but obviously it was a brain fart. I mean, I don't care how he wants to describe it. That was a mental lapse on his part, leaving James Harden alone, even for a split second, particularly the way he had been playing tonight. You're right. But I'm not mad about them losing because they didn't play good enough to win for most of the game. This was supposed to happen.
Yeah, man. I mean, like that's what that was the biggest talking point between Bobby and I when we previewed this matchup yesterday. How can these guys maximize Embiid and James Harden in the same game? And they did it. They pulled this off. And for the Celtics to respond the way they did after being down by 14, 15 points was huge. It seemed like it was in their everything was in their favor to come back and win this game. And the crowd got back into it between Embiid making those big shots. But man, Al, before you hopped on, Sherrod, those stops at the rim on Embiid, man, it was almost like this crowd was just stunned. And that's what the Celtics capitalized off of, capitalized on for them to go on that run down the stretch. But, when Joe Mazzulla is always going to be that guy to make the decision and letting everyone figure things out, this is sort of what happens. You're going to get the flip side of a bad outcome. And this is it, and I don't see that changing. I hope it does throughout the playoffs, especially, again, the emphasis is in overtime. When guys are tired and they haven't been subbed out for over 7 minutes and everyone's hovering around 40 minutes, you got to have that insight to say, okay, look, we need to regroup here. quick timeout. It's not even more about the play or drawing one up, but more about just giving everyone a breather. You know, Mazzulla's big on that stuff, right? About breathing and making the right decisions in those moments, and making sure everyone has the right headspace. Well, he's got to do that for his guys as well. And I think calling a timeout in particular moments is a great way to help your guys in those moments when they're when it's tight, the game is tight, and they haven't had a breather in a while, and it's the same guys out there,
Yeah. I think it's always a good idea when you can attack a defense that's not set. But here's the thing: the Celtics walk the damn ball up all the time, so they're basically walking up against allowing that defense to set. So if you're going to go against a set defense, you might as well get a damn timeout and call a play that you want to run against that set defense that you've already put yourself in position to go against. So yeah, I mean, when you start, looking at who gets the biggest slice of the blame pie, there's so much to go around. Joe, I thought he certainly was a factor. Tatum, I thought, when he kicked it out to Marcus at the end of regulation, I was kind of hoping he'd try to finish at the rim.
I was, but I like that look. I'll be honest.
I can't be mad about
thought
him passing
that was
to a guy
clean
wide
look.
open. It was a great look. I mean, it was as wide open a look as Smart had all game long.
It was a practice three. He had time to tee it up.
It was. He was almost maybe too open. But the bottom line is this: they didn't handle their business. They had every opportunity to come in here. When they were up 105, 100 late in regulation, I'm thinking all they need is one legitimate stop at this point, and it's a wrap. And they couldn't get it. They couldn't get it. So, So we're on to game 5. Come back here for game 6 and finish it off.
1 point game.
Yeah.
All coming back. You guys got to carry it for 2 seconds. I gotta go drink in private so I don't spill all over myself. I'll be right back.
Go get some water. Get a breather in, John. Come on, man.
I'm dry. Allergies killing me.
All good. So
But I've got a drinking problem.
Man. Get a breather in.
So Joseph, I'm curious though. What did you
time
think?
Out for John.
Yeah, time out for John. What did you think of just the way that they handled dealing with Harden, outside of obviously the play at the end there, but just in general, why do you think he was able to get off like he was in this game?
The floater was big. I felt like, I think the Celtics have done a good job in trying to, not give him as much space as he did as he got in game 1. The drop coverage. I thought Rob Williams made the most of his minutes and just trying to protect that paint and make it hard for him. But, he got the floater going. He started getting to the free throw line. And then little by little, I mean, some of those 3-pointers, they were contested, man. It wasn't like he was getting wide open looks, but he was still draining them. That step back was going, which it was really eye-opening to me that we didn't see more of that in Game 3. Maybe it was because of the MVP ceremony with Joel Embiid, just the way Joel Embiid was flowing off on offense, throughout the entire first half, where he just felt, maybe this is Embiid's night. But this game was different. Like from the beginning, he took charge. Like he was like, man, I'm gonna start cooking too as well. While Embiid obviously was that playmaker around the free throw line, like pretty much similar to what we saw in Game 3, but Harden was getting those looks, and all of a sudden he has 18 points by halftime. And that was huge. I mean, and for the Celtics to go on that mini run before the end of the first half, to pull it to within 9, I thought was big too, because they didn't go into the second half, down by double digits. Yeah, man, I think a lot of it was that Harden just making tough plays, and it really got him going, but also getting to the free throw line, which gets him going as well.
Well, a lot of those hard plays that James was able to make came with Jaylen Brown doing what you and I did for all game, and that's watch. They could not guard Jaylen at all in the first 4 or 5 minutes of this game. When he picked up that second personal foul, that was an absolute game changer because his aggression defensively completely changed. I don't think most people realize that before this game, James Harden hadn't made a shot while being guarded by Jaylen Brown since game 1. Since game 1.
I believe it.
So when he was 0 for 7. So when you are dominating that matchup at that end of the floor against an elite scorer like James Harden, and all of a sudden you can't defend him, you can't be as aggressive against him, he's going to get cooking. Because Malcolm Brogdon had 19 points, but Malcolm got grilled regularly in this one. I mean, James had him on the barbecue rotation.
Yeah, but Sherrod, I gotta say though, because I was thinking about that too, and I mean, Jaylen got 2 quick fouls. How many did he finish with on the night?
Like 3 or 4.
3.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, once he got through the first half, and you're right,
Harden had like 7. He got
And
called for 5, but
I tweeted it at halftime. I said second half could be big because since he didn't pick up that third foul, Jalen can go back to being Jalen. Get on Harden, bug him all day long, and then drive and be more aggressive going to the hoop. It just didn't happen because the Celtics' offensive mentality changed because they were trying so hard to get Tatum involved.
Exactly.
And
Right.
so then the emphasis became getting Tatum going, and there you go, Jalen stuck back in the corner. So Tatum, Brown died so Tatum could live, but like but like it's fine. Tatum played better, but you neutralized your best player in the series, your best player in the playoffs, and a guy they have no answer for. No matter which bodies they throw at him, they absolutely have no answers. So I find that perplexing to me. It's like, and this is why it's like, forget getting Tatum going. Like, yeah, you can run a play or two where you know he's going to get an open look coming off of something, off ball or something, if he's struggling to get it going on his own. But otherwise, just freaking play. Just play, man. Like when you're not worried about who's got to have it and who's got to get going, or hunting matchups or getting the ball in a guy's hand. Their offense has been better with good ball movement, open threes. They didn't have flow in the first half, and if Brown wasn't hot early, it could have been a 20-point game in the first quarter, and really all the way through the half. And then it was a miracle they were only down 9. It was a really disjointed offensive effort. So just go back to what's working for you. I don't like that they involved Tatum and took Brown completely out of the game.
But that was the problem, though. Those guys have been able to work this balancing act where, one has it going for a stretch, the other one has it going for a stretch, but they're always engaged and involved. And when Jalen picked up the 2 fouls, his aggression level went down a notch. When Tatum continued to struggle, missing shot after shot after shot, his aggression level picked up significantly to start the second half. I don't think it was a coincidence that the first bucket was Tatum finishing at the rim. They were out of sorts all game long, and they really didn't seem to kind of get back into some type of semblance of a flow until the fourth quarter, when at that point James Harden has had 30 some odd minutes to get cooking. Joel Embiid is he's doing what Joel does, and it was just they just couldn't seal the deal because those 2 guys specifically were just in too good of a rhythm that they couldn't contain them when it mattered most.
Yeah, there's no doubt. The whole thing was those are the moments where you're kind of like something's not right. When you see the 2 quick fouls early, it's like that Tobias Harris literally tripped over his own feet and they called a foul on Jalen. Jalen's coming this way, Harris is going that way. They weren't even crossing each other. They were going in different directions, and Harris fell over going that way into the key while Jalen was on the baseline. It didn't touch him, and then gets the second one on Embiid, which I think was good. But that stuff is so head scratching, when they give those fouls early. But it happened. Real quick, and we'll talk a little more, about other aspects of the game tonight. But we do want to tell you first off about FanDuel.
Yeah.
And again, run the fast break or something like that. I think I'm supposed to say out to get Remember Larry Ridley? Anyone a Larry Ridley fan when he was at Channel 7? We would do a segment, and it was called Fast Break Sports. It was at 5 o'clock where we do 5 stories really fast. And at the end, it'd be like, I'm Larry Ridley, and you're running the fast break. And he'd do this little shimmy on the air. I friggin' loved it.
Is that what Al did? Is that what he was doing?
Al did
that dunk?
Yeah, Al did that. No, that one was for Duke. That one was for Duke.
I think it was. He was shaking. He was dancing for it.
Little shimmy for Duke.
He's like, I can do this too, man. I can still dunk too.
I got this in my game too. You want to laugh at me? He did that one for Duke. Little shimmy. But as far as FanDuel goes, if you're interested in getting in on the action here, head over to FanDuel.com/Boston and sign up right away, and you get 1,000 in no sweat first bets, which is basically a do-over, which is pretty cool. You screw it up on your first bet, 1,000 right back to you. Try again. So not a bad deal. And again, $1,000 bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/Boston. Super easy to download and use the app. So just check it out right here. As you see, really big, no sweat first bet. FanDuel.com/Boston. FanDuel, the official partner of the NBA and the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Back to the game, guys. And again, so much focused on late. And let me see what I got here. Oh, I've got some Jalen stuff. We'll talk about Jalen a little bit. And Jalen's going to own up to that Harden situation here, I believe. So let me get JB on Harden and how things went down there on the 3-pointer that Harden hit that ultimately ended up being the game winner.
Just a bad read. That's it. It's a gamble at the wrong time, and big shot by James Harden, but that's my fault. I take full accountability. Just a bad read.
See, that's why I love Jalen.
So Joe thought it was good. Jalen, who was there, thought it was
He's
bad.
like, nah, coach.
Well,
Yeah.
Jalen knows that was a bad call. That was
Of course
a
he
bad read on
does.
his
Joe
part.
doesn't.
See, John, I see where you're going.
I'm mad.
I see where you're going.
You weren't here for it. Did you hear it? I'm playing it again. This was Joe on the late game execution.
Joe, is there any regrets about the late game execution, either in regulation or overtime? Yet, regulation 2 smart threes and then there's 2 free throws, so Tatum and Brown didn't touch the ball. And in overtime, the last plays, or anything you would change?
No, it was great execution.
Damn, he said that with conviction.
Great execution.
It was great execution that
being
your
said-
top 2 scorers didn't get the ball in the most critical moment of the game.
Yeah,
Coach,
yeah.
maybe
Right.
we didn't see the same game.
And you couldn't get a shot off. In fairness, the Jaylen Brown part was not included in the execution, but that is part of execution.
Yeah.
Executing your defensive game plan that you should know and know not to gamble. And again, I mean, my goodness, Sherrod, like I coached when I was, I coached kids when I was younger. Okay, like, and you'd be like, I coached when there was no 3-pointers at all, and you'd be up 3
damn.
points. You'd be up 3 points, and you'd tell the kids, they're like 12-year-olds,
Yeah.
don't foul. You're up 3.
Right.
They can't win the game. Just
Right.
hold your hands up in the air, and no
Right.
matter what, straight up, and just let them score. There's not enough time for them to tie it. And what happens? Everybody goes up for a monster block, and I'm like, but that's 12-year-olds. Like in this
Yeah.
instance is no matter what, do not leave, do not double, do not help. We will give up. If somebody gets beat, you give up the 2. Do not foul. Give
Yeah.
up clean 2s, play them straight. Nothing else matters.
Yeah.
If they don't know it on their own, it's your
Somebody
job
needs
to
to
tell
say
them.
it. Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
didn't tell them, then no, you did not execute and you didn't do what you were supposed to do, which is be screaming, no threes, no threes, no threes. Because then Jalen can't think to gamble because that
Right.
thought's in his head now of like,
Yeah.
yeah, obviously I can't gamble here.
Yeah. I mean, there's like I said, there's a number of breakdowns both on that bench and on the floor, and I'm just glad that Jalen owned up to what he did. I mean,
did.
he made and to his credit, the game wouldn't have been even remotely that close if he hadn't done some amazing things early in the game. So there's a balancing act there with that.
Of course there is.
But
It's winning time, so that's all.
It's
It's always going to be magnified. Yeah.
But Johnny, we've done this long enough to know that late game execution, as much as it's about the players, it's about the coaches putting the players in position to.
Did he freeze or did I
still-
freeze?
Oh, no, he's
Joe.
back.
You're good. You're back.
Okay. Yeah, but that's where things get a little bit sketchy with Joe, as far as like, is he doing the best job of putting guys in position to execute when it absolutely matters? And something as simple as, guys, don't foul 3-point shooters. If they get it to Embiid, let him score. But that means we got time to either let it go to double overtime or win it. I mean, this was not one of Joe's shining moments.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing, though, Sherrod.
Not even close.
I feel like he doesn't look at it. I don't think he looks at it that way. He looks at it as what's going to put this
He
team.
totally doesn't look at it that way. He doesn't.
Right.
I agree.
But in the playoffs, you got to see things differently, especially when you're trying to unlock one of your best players. And in that particular moment, where I feel like other coaches do things differently, whether it's Doc Rivers or whether it's guys that have that any other coach that has those high caliber scorers. Whereas he's always going to look at what's the best shot, best available opportunity for the team.
In that
I'm
moment,
sorry.
though, yeah, I can't give it to him.
I'm
That's
sorry.
what I mean. You
That's
got to
here's-
change things.
John,
Here's
go
what
ahead,
bothers
John.
me. Here's what kills me about it. There is merit to not calling a timeout. So another team might be frazzled, not set, not know what their game plan is because the coach hasn't had a chance to whisper in their ear. So
Mhm.
there is some merit to Joe just running it before the other Sixers can be told by Doc, hey, what are we doing here? What's our coverage? What do we not want to give up? Who are we? What are we? Whatever. Are we giving up switches? Are we not? So there's some merit to it. However, the Harden 3 is coming off of a timeout. So I'm sorry. Massive failure on Mazzulla's part. Massive failure to not set him up for success on both the last defensive possession and the offensive one. Knowing if they make it, we're just going to go. Also, if they make a three, which should have never been on the table, because the only thing you have to be telling him there is do not give up the three. If they go inside to Embiid, stand up. If he makes it, he makes it. If not, everybody crash. That's it. Get the friggin' ball. That's the whole ball game there. Anybody can tell you that. That's, again, 101 stuff.
Yeah.
Let him have it. Crash. Don't give up a second chance. Do not leave shooters open. Only thing we can't live with is a three. It's coming off a timeout. It's not like Philly ran the ball back off of Tatum's make, and they didn't know what to do, and Jalen just did that without thinking. The thought wasn't in his head because it wasn't put in his head. There's no way Joe said 20 seconds earlier, don't give up a three, do not double Embiid, and he did it anyway. No chance. No chance. And then when he makes the three, was Joe counting on that happening and still wanted to run it back up the court? All of that is off. All of that is off.
Yeah, there's a lot of just like, what the hell were you thinking in that moment type of stuff. Yeah. Especially, and again, I go back to the way Al
What are you saying to them in the
Joel.
timeout? What is Joe saying in that timeout before the Harden three? If not that, I don't get it.
I don't either, because that's really the only message you need to say. Defend, don't give up the three, and rebound.
That's it.
That's it.
Don't
There's
foul, don't
literally
give up the
nothing
three, grab the board.
Yeah. And the way that Al was defending Joel, it was even, you would be more inclined to go single coverage and stay at home on your man, because Al was doing, and Al's best defense on Joel all night long was like the last 5-6 minutes of the game.
Isn't it amazing?
It was amazing. I mean, he went back to Al from, circa 2-3 years ago when he pretty much owned Joel whenever they matched up each other. Obviously things are different now, but it's just the more you start to let this game kind of marinate, the more it just feels like, gosh, Coach Mazzulla, this was kind of your moment, and you didn't meet it.
No, you didn't meet it. Did not. Let's hear from all parties involved. Marcus Smart here talking about the kind of last play and how they didn't get it off in time.
What did take so long to get that set going?
We were just trying to get the right guys in the right spot. We just went a little slower than expected. We wanted to go really fast. They did a good job of, getting their guys on the right people, making a play. We just got to, see what was going on, see the timing. We got to understand the timing management. All right, on to the next one.
On to the next one. That's all you can do. On to the next one. That's all you can do.
Well, look, again, to credit
game
here,
from Marcus too,
not
man.
throwing people under the bus, because, again, it's Marcus is the only person who can flat out not have any role in that last play of the game. Look, man, I got the ball late. Like, what am I supposed to do? He did everything he could humanly have done, which is get it and tee up a three that went in. He just didn't get it in time. So, I mean, anything that he's going to say that's going to be critical there is obviously going to be pointed at, someone's got to get me the ball faster, or maybe we would have benefited from having a freaking clue what the hell we were doing. So, again, I don't know. If that was the play Joe called up off a miss, this is what I want you to do, then they executed poorly, and that's that. So it's hard to say. To say.
Yeah. This is like I said, you better hope if you're the Celtics that this doesn't come back and bite your ass, because you need to finish. You need to finish this now, get Game 5, and come back here and get Game 6, and get ready to move on. If this thing
sorry.
No, Game 7s are crapshoots. I don't care whether you're home or away, particularly when you are the team that's expected to move on sooner. So this is a good feeling.
Yeah, I'm watching it back again. I mean, so Marcus takes it up slow, and he gives it to Tatum. Do you know where Tatum is standing when he starts moving with 4.7 seconds to go?
Where?
On the back of the 6. His heel is almost at half court.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? He's not even freaking close to getting going. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's not even close. And again, Marcus could have gotten it up a little bit faster too. But he gets it, and he just stands there. Okay? I mean, Marcus jogs it up 15, 14. He crosses half court, 13, 12, 11, 10. They're walking it up. They're not doing anything. So I take it back. Marcus could have gotten it, but Tatum doesn't flash. Tatum doesn't
Right.
flash at all. Tatum catches the ball. I'm on my screen here with 7.9 seconds facing the opposite basket. Okay? Turns around at 7.5 and stands there. Starts moving at 4.7. Okay? It's nothing is going there. Dribbles, kicks it under the basket and whips it all the way back out to the 3-point line. What are you doing?
I don't know.
It's
It's as if they thought the game was
unbelievable.
tied or something. But even so, you still should have more of a kick in
Tatum
your step,
didn't
man.
do
Like
it.
you
Tatum
gotta.
just stood there.
I don't know.
And also, I got to
These
tell
guys are
you,
exhausted.
and I have to tell you something else too. We're talking about bad reads. Not only did Tatum drive at that point, he'd beaten one man off the dribble, and whoever was on Jalen helped off him. Okay,
Yeah.
and Jalen's in there in
Jalen
the
was
corner,
open,
and that's a
right.
short pass. That
Yeah.
is obviously at that
He
point.
missed him.
If you're not going to shoot, once you opt not to pass to Jalen, the read is shoot. Okay,
Yeah.
so he blew the whole thing. Don't tell me the play was for Jason to go around a Marcus screen with 4 seconds left, get to under the basket, and then throw it out to Smart. Everything about that is bad execution. It's the timing of it, and it's either the first read is there in the corner if help comes. If not, you go up. The help came immediately to the corner. That's the obvious read there. And if you miss it, then you got to shoot because it's game over. So you just dribbled out the clock. There's no chance from where he was getting it back out to Smart that shot could get off. None.
Yeah.
None. It's 1 point. The ball leaves his hands at 1.1 seconds out to Marcus. Impossible. And he still almost got it off, which is amazing.
Which is
Right,
amazing.
that's true. But you knew as soon as he caught it, as soon as he gathered himself,
You knew it was too late.
He doesn't have enough time for that.
So everything about that was, in fact, again, objectively bad execution. There's no other way to say it. It took too long, and you didn't get a shot off, and you missed your first read and your second option, which should have been to go up with it, to kick it back out to someone who had no chance of succeeding. An epic, obvious fail. So why are we pretending?
Like
I don't.
Like it could have went. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they were fortunate that it even became a debatable topic when that shot went in, because it shouldn't have come to that. I just think in that situation, your best player, if he's going to the rim, finish. Or at least attempt to finish.
Okay. You're right. In Sherrod, in both cases, you wanted him to shoot it in the first OT.
Hell yeah. Because the way that he was playing, the way that Philly defense at that point in the game there's starting to be some cracks that they were able to exploit. It was a perfect time for him to do that. But this is going to leave a bad taste in their mouth. If by some reason Philly's able to come back and win this series, there's going to be so much everything is going to come back to this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You started calm, Sherrod. I think you're going to be angry. I know I'm not good for people's blood pressure, but you're going to get angrier as time goes on. I'm pretty sure.
I'm trying not to go there, John, but I can feel the marinating of this game starting to kind of.
It's coming up.
It is.
One issue we talked about early, and I still think it's very, a really big issue from this game was, as we said, Tatum got going, but Brown was completely sacrificed at the altar of Tatum again. And 5 shots in the second half, 3 in the fourth, 0 in OT. And once again, here he is, a passenger out in the corner. This is telling. Watch the whole thing of Jaylen Brown here being asked about not getting a lot of shots. Because again, just remind you, last game, he was asked about having a more involved role on the ball. He was basically like, thank freaking God, it's about time. I've been here for 7 years. Give me the ball and let me cook a little bit instead of just sitting me in the corner. I don't do any good there. Then he spends the entire second half, the day after he says that, sitting in the corner, not doing anything. So here's Brown when he was asked about the shots, not getting that many in the second half.
Jalen, you had 3 shots in the fourth quarter and none in overtime. How do you become more active in the offense, especially down the stretch?
I guess I got to demand the ball a little bit more. I thought good things happened when I had it in my hands, but I thought our offense was okay. I thought we chipped away. We made big time shots. We got great looks all game long, and we just came up short in the end.
What needs to change about the way you get involved in the offense? Because you've been able to have a lot of success over your career in the offense.
I'm not sure how to answer what needs to change. I'm not sure. I just think that we just need to continue to execute, continue to emphasize, what's working, and I think that will carry us over. I think we had great moments in this game. I think that we had great looks offensively. I think I can insert myself at times more into the game, we just got to be ready for the next one.
What the hell can I do? That's really what he's saying. Like, what the hell? What more can I do?
The pauses say everything. An incredibly diplomatic answer and really professional from Jalen saying, like, look, yeah, I didn't get shots, but look what we did in the second half. We came back. We did well. We did well for ourselves. But he knows, it happened again. Yeah, it happened. The pauses to all of those say everything. He's trying very hard not to say, like, I don't know, man. You tell me what happened, but he didn't.
Right. Yeah. I think he's trying very hard to say I don't think he wants to point blame, but I think he's trying to figure it out himself. So he doesn't want to go out and say, well, I wasn't getting the ball as much, or I didn't get anything that sounds to that, anything close to that, it's going to come off as it's not going to sit well in the morning, right? So, yeah, I can see that's why that was that hesitation out of Jalen, where he doesn't want to go out and say something, but he's probably confused himself as to why does this happen, But then again, the Celtics did almost pull it off without him being in the mix as much, so he's going to be hesitant as to not sound like he's whining about it.
Let me ask you guys this. In addition to, let's just say if you did call a timeout, one thing you can do, and I want to pull this up one more time, your personnel on the floor at that point, again, is as Josue mentioned, he forgot to put Brogdon in the game. And I don't know that Joe remembered Brogdon wasn't in the game. I really don't.
He forgot about him.
I really don't. I think when he chose not to call a timeout, he was so shocked after that three, he just let it roll. And I don't think he realized the personnel he had on the floor. Are you telling me Marcus Smart should have been on the floor there? What should you not have done? Maybe a Brogdon, Hauser, Brown, Tatum, Horford sort of situation. You didn't need a three, but the spacing matters because you can't leave people open at that point. Okay, not that you can't, with that lineup, but you did leave a worse shooter out there in place of a better one, and thus creating more problems and more spacing. So again,
but what helps with that, John, real quick? Calling timeout. Just saying.
That's what I mean.
Well, that's what you mean.
That's the benefit of the timeout, because I think he forgot it, and I think he didn't know. Josue, I think you're 100% right. I don't think he knew.
Yeah. And the thing about that particular point, and at that particular point in the game, because they walked the ball up so damn much, if you call a timeout, you're still going to see the same kind of defense that you would see if you didn't call a timeout.
Exactly. There's no benefit in not calling it. Right.
You have the ability to change the personnel up, to call the play that you want. And to be honest, when you have that many shooters out there, we all know what typically happens. They create space for your best scorers because they have to respect those other perimeter threats out there. And so, again, the more I think about this game and just all the things that went down, it's hard not to look at Joe Mazzulla sideways and think like, damn, bro, you missed the moment this one. You this could have been your game, and you missed it.
Yeah.
And I feel like Brogdon, just the way his shoulders were slumped. I mean, obviously he was upset because of the foul, picking up his fifth, but on the way to the bench, it was almost as if he knew. He was like, "You're gonna forget about me, aren't you?" Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm done. This is it. This is my day.
Let me get my warm up on.
Well, my game's done. Right. You might as well. Might as well put the ice pack or whatever he does after post game.
What time is the flight leaving? Okay.
Think about Josue, how counterintuitive it is to remove a player with 5 fouls in overtime in the first place and not bring them back. Right. The only reason to remove someone with 5 fouls is if you absolutely
preserve
them preserve them for that moment in the game. Otherwise,
defense with them.
Otherwise, just let them play,
right?
And then let them foul out. Right. And that's fine. There's no reason to. So the only reason to pull him at that point is to preserve him. And I do agree. I think he forgot. Let's bring in Bobby. And again, I know Bobby probably was in on some of the press conferences.
Yeah.
Bobby,
What was the vibe in there, Bobby? Especially that Jalen person.
Bobby, we just played Jalen talking about both not getting the ball, his bad read on Harden. We also heard from Marcus in the locker room talking about and the question that you had asked there about what happened there late. We have not heard from Tatum. Do we expect to?
Yeah, we just heard from him and
Okay.
followed up, of course, on Jalen's comments there about demanding the ball more. Asked what he's seeing in the offense that isn't allowing that to happen, and any conversations they've had about that in particular. And he said they do talk through these things. Every game's different, so he didn't really elaborate on why this happens sometimes. Maybe I should ask just about tonight, but it's a similar answer he gave after game one to that 10-shot game for Brown in that spot. And we'll go back and watch this game. I can't really think off the top of my head specifically why he got so lost again tonight.
Because they started running the offense through Tatum again. They started running it through Tatum, bringing him up high, giving him the ball, and letting him go. And Jalen got relegated to exactly what he doesn't like doing, which is getting stuck in the corner.
So it's interesting because I did pull out those numbers, a couple years ago, John.
And that's why I was saying I want you to go count the passes after this. I want you to go watch the tape and count the passes. I don't think there were many between Tatum and Brown.
Right, and I don't think I can isolate those for tonight yet.
No.
But overall, these playoffs, the passing's up. And I think, 10 a game to Brown from Tatum's probably just about the most he's ever thrown to Brown per game these playoffs. During the year, it was 6.3, so it's way up over that. The shots it creates aren't way up, 3.3 from 2.7, but, Brown is shooting 57% off those. So, yeah, we'll get the numbers from tonight. Maybe tonight was just a bad disconnected night between those two, but something in this offense is not right when he's lost and Smart and Horford get the ball in crunch time as much as they do. Again, you're throwing to where it's open, but this is the same conversation we had off the top of the show, John, is defenses are funneling the ball in certain directions. You're picking your poison in those spots. I'm sure Doc talked about that after the game too, and this is just another example, I think, of Doc, who gets a lot of crap, doing something smart here in terms of where the ball got sent late in this game out of Tatum's hands. Tatum's still not the highest level shot creator imaginable. He's come a long way. He'll have these big passing games. He's great at those driving kicks. And again, I love the pass to Smart in that spot. Tough one with crowd in the paint. Smart gets a pretty good look there, but Tatum did admit it took him too long to go. He dribbled one or two too many times to get to the rim and waited probably a second too long to get going in the first place. So he did take responsibility for that.
Yeah. Yeah, fair. I mean, obviously, though. I mean,
Yeah.
You ran out of time. Of course, you took too much time. I mean, that's understandable. The question is why? Why did they think they had all the time in the world? You almost watch the level of urgency they had with that last possession. You would have thought they thought the game was tied. And I do wonder if everybody on the floor absolutely knew that they were down one at that time, because it didn't feel like it. It felt like a no urgency sort of situation. Like you can't not get a shot off. I mean. It really is.
And your favorite line, John, the intent. We didn't play intense enough in the first half. A playoff game again, where the intensity just isn't there in the first half. Why? Yeah. I don't know.
We said it. I mean, Josue and I were worried this might have been one of those coasting sort of games. I didn't think they coasted. I just don't think they played with the same level. 2 and 3 is as locked in as they've been, right? Wouldn't you say? In all season, 2 and 3 was
especially 2
locked in performances 2 ways. 2, they ripped it open and hit every single shot, which was great. But 3, they weren't. It wasn't going great for them, and they stayed with it and stayed with it and stayed with it and kept playing defense and kept grinding and never gave up and ended up grinding Philly down in what was a hard-fought win. This wasn't like that in the first half as much. I think they were, and again, Sherrod made an excellent point. The two fouls on Brown allowed Harden to get going. You wonder what would have happened if he could have stayed on him and stayed with him, and if you would have checked him out, if Harden would have checked out the same way he did in 2 and 3, if Jalen was making his life easier. Bobby, you tweeted it though. They were setting much, much better screens. The Celtics could not fight through them as well as they were in games 2 and 3. They were getting walled off a little bit, and Harden did get some choice matchups off of it.
Yeah, Jalen said it was about the timing of them. They came earlier and I'm sure higher and sent the Celtics higher up. And I think the difference for Harden and Embiid especially is the Sixers got deeper in the paint off those looks. If Embiid's catching the ball at the rim, it's over. He's either making it or missing it and grabbing his own miss and putting it back in. So he was amazing in this game. And this is another concern, Sherrod, I have about this series. I still don't think the Celtics are going to lose it. But Embiid is pretty close to 100% right now by the look of it to me. Miraculously. I don't know how that happened, but he's playing at a high level out there. Harden finding pockets to get comfortable, and even their role guys getting involved in certain ways. That big putback was huge for Tucker, who I think has struggled for a lot of this series. It's obviously a series now, Sherrod, at 2-2. That goes without saying, but I think for the first time, the Celtics are in a position where they could lose this series, and that wasn't even comprehensible for me coming into it calling a sweep.
Yeah, but Bobby, would you say Embiid is 100%, or is he just like riding on fumes and just?
He looks it to me.
Point.
He doesn't look physically limited.
This looks like.
Does he look physically limited at all? He doesn't at all to me.
I mean, it's not that he looks like limited, but you're wondering when is that knee gonna give out, or he's gonna start really feeling that pain, because like the difference between a week ago and now is just like, man, how is that even possible? You know, like I'm
We'll see. It hasn't happened yet.
What's up?
Yeah. It hasn't happened yet. So if it does, it does. But I'm saying right now, he's back. He is Embiid again.
Yeah, but you still have to attack him. You still have to figure out ways to either suck him in defensively and find guys open, but you can't just let him rest defensively, patrol the paint. You've got to make him pay if he's not going to come out and guard you.
And John, sorry, Sherrod. Well, I was going to throw out, because I finally got the number up here, crunch time. They are now minus 9.5 per 100 in crunch time this postseason. 3-4 in games that go to crunch time. This is like 2021 stuff again. We're talking about in terms of the execution and the pace and collapses at times. Of course, tonight was a comeback compared to a collapse. So I think you feel better coming out of it than you would if they were up and lost this one. They came back and lost this one. And that was the sentiment around a lot of the team post-game is we played terrible in the first half, but we still put ourselves in position to win this game. That's how the Celtics were looking at it. But whether you're coming back or collapsing in crunch time, this team continues to struggle to execute in those spots. And if we throw it back to the regular season, I didn't think it was this bad during the year. And I'm about to see it right now. Where Boston ranked. They were plus 4.6 during the regular season in crunch time. Went 24-13 in games decided by that. So what's changing now? Game 5 against Atlanta, game 1 of this series. Why are they struggling so much in these situations?
The clutch. So let's make it as simple as possible, right? And everyone might have an opinion, but this is where you separate yourself. If Tatum and Brown are going to be the guys, this is where you have to be the guys. You come up here and you make the winning plays, and you don't rely on Marcus Smarts to do it, and you don't make negative plays yourself. So again, I don't know how else to look at it other than at the end of the game, your two best players, one of them, boneheaded double and allowed the shooter open, and then the other guy doesn't get the offense going early enough. Those are your two stars. Your two stars can't do stuff late in games, and they're the ones who you're going to be counting on. That's what's going to happen. That's the reason why. Though you want to go low-hanging fruit and talk about Mazzulla. Yeah, Mazzulla's, not doing everything right. You call a timeout. You do things differently. You have them prepared. But what are we doing with these guys? They're in year 7 and 6, and respectively. Like, it's you have enough reps at high levels in important games to not crap all over yourself late in the game. You can't do it. You can't be the best player. Stop talking to me about all NBA if you're going to friggin' do stuff like that. Stop talking to me about MVP if you can't friggin' get the ball out of your hands in time to get a shot off in the playoffs. That's not how it works. You just don't do that. It's up to those guys. So I'm always going to go back to the players. I'm going to go back to the stars. It's baked into their DNA. We have the same core here. for the last several years, and they're the ones who always have the ball in their hands. That's Smart, Brown, and Tatum. And if you have late game problems, it's on those three. And I don't know why we keep waiting for it to get better, because when? Year 10, 12? Like, when is it going to get better? I'm not sure.
It's supposed to be this postseason, right?
I don't know. Like I said, we're playing great
now.
for 2 games, but this is what's frustrating. You talk specifically about late game execution and meltdowns. It's always those guys. It's always one of those guys in those situations.
Yeah.
And over the years, we keep going back to coach. We killed Brad, we killed Ime, and now you killed Joe. And again, I'm not siding with some of the stuff Joe did tonight, but I'm always going to look at those guys and say that they're the ones with the ball. They're the ones who make the decisions and make the plays late. So make them.
Yeah, but those are the guys that are also never going to point to their coach and say, well, we didn't get the timeout, or we didn't, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm so done with the coach stuff. Give me a break.
What do you mean?
It's meaning blaming the coach.
Yeah. I mean, Tatum just said it. They didn't call a timeout against Brooklyn last year, and it was a great play. Like letting them play or timeout. It's almost like a coin toss. Yeah. And they've decided that they're going to take the side of the coin to run and not allow the defense to get set. There's upsides and downsides to each. They could have run a much better play faster there, and it's on the players in that spot to call it if that's what they're going to do. You're going to second guess it if it doesn't work. I think they made the right decision there to go, after thinking about it, because you don't want Doc to sub defense.
Do you think you had the right offensive personnel, Bobby? I will say that.
Fair, but you're going to sub both ways, right? So you have Tatum and Brown out there, Smart's out there, and they had put White in there at that point because Brogdon had the 5 fouls, right?
Right.
So that's the sub you would have made.
Right, but Bobby, if Mazzulla doesn't make that call, though, they're not going to do it, even if they want to.
But how many times have they called timeout and they've run something stupid,
And I'm with you, Bobby. I was just playing devil's advocate in the last one. I think it's a player. Sherrod, again, why do you think, Bobby points out the numbers, why do you think we keep having these issues?
We keep having these issues because this team doesn't embrace the fact that there's paths that can be easier on them in the long run versus we're just going to do whatever the hell we feel like doing in that moment. And Bobby, I understand what you're saying about the coach, and I don't believe he is the sole reason, but I do believe that he has glitches where he doesn't have a pulse for what he should be doing.
Yeah.
And to your point about the substitutions that Philly could have made, here's the thing, though. In this particular game, at that particular juncture of the game, the Celtics offense was outperforming Philly's defense. And even if Doc made some substitutions, I still think you would have been better off having Malcolm.
Yeah, I agree. I missed Malcolm in that moment for sure. But there was no way he could get back in. Actually, no, I got a text from I don't know if it's true or not, but I got a text from a co-host from College History Podcast, Josue Pavon. He says Doris Burke mentioned during the broadcast that Brogdon tried to get in before that second.
He did. He came to the table and he went back.
But he had his warm up on because he didn't expect to get that call. So when he realized last second he tried to get back in, he didn't have enough time. So again, this is because he's
that's good. That's good execution right there. Try to sub in without enough time for a guy to get his warm up off. Good execution late game.
Yeah, I guess you could play mind games for Philly and for Brogdon because he wanted to get back in there. I'm sure he did. Jeez.
But this just felt like a game where they needed a little extra something from the sideline to get over the hump. That's all I'm saying, and they didn't get it.
I think I'd go back to early, Sherrod, because again, we're always going to highlight crunch time. The first half was a disaster, going down 16. Tatum's 0 for 7 or 0 for 8. That's where you needed something from the sideline to get him going and get him involved. And this actually didn't end up becoming a sulky Tatum game. Grabbing 18 rebounds and the amount of assists and 4 blocks. He stayed engaged. And there was one point where it looked and Horford grabbed him and he ended up settling down. Harden bumped him on the drive right after that, and he didn't complain after that. So he did keep his head in the game. In general, though, I would like to see the Celtics draw up something to get him an easy basket during a horrible start like that. Brown was great. They were getting him quality looks early, but Tatum's lost. And then the second half, Brown to get lost and Tatum would be at the center doing a lot of stuff. Even though the numbers, and I'm looking at them, look good in terms of how those two are connecting right now, it didn't look that way tonight. I think there's just got to be something structurally that changes to allow those two to have more balance and have it not be my turn, your turn on the success scale. Because yes, the shots are fairly even, the passing between them's fairly even, but the success they're riding and how they feel they're involved in these moments, at least from Brown's perspective, is not where it needs to be. I mean, this is twice now this series. Brown's like, I got to be more involved. I need more shots. I need more ball time. And for him to be saying that publicly, I mean, that's definitely something, Sherrod, you're talking about behind the scenes if you're them. But Brown's going public with it. So there's obviously something he feels isn't getting across privately.
Well, you can't lobby for all NBA anymore because the votes are in. So you got to just lobby like free Jalen, get Jalen the ball. But he's not wrong at this point. No. It's about winning. He's not wrong at all. And a commenter made a fair point here. Like, we're going all in on him when they had a really, 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 really good comeback from 15 points down. Never gave up. Never let it get in their heads. Philly could have been up by 20 something.
Yeah, I don't hate this game.
The game itself was fine, but you're just so stuck on the last three things that happened or didn't happen with the Harden three, the no timeout, and the execution on the last play. It's so hard to focus on anything else. They played a crap game. They couldn't get started. They couldn't hit shots. They couldn't get out of their way offensively. Your best player couldn't hit a shot for an entire half. And they ripped back from 15-16 down to take a 5-point lead and should have put this game away. So it's just hard to not focus on the blown part instead of the comeback, which was good. I mean, they showed heart in the game and they battled. And this could have been an epic Philly meltdown. And their post-game show would have been this post-game show talking about how they pissed one away. And so, it's not fair. It just is what it is because it's a missed opportunity. And at this point, there's no moral victories. Wins are the only thing that matters. And you had it right there and you let it go.
Yeah. What we're seeing is this series is more even than I at least thought. I don't know what you guys expected going in.
It's not, though. And going in, Bobby, they flashed a graphic in the first half. The Sixers had led for like 8 minutes all series or something. Like
it's been tight, though. It's been tight.
I don't know. I think Philly's doing everything possible to stay alive in games, and the Celtics, when they put their foot down, they just shoot past them. So I'm not saying it's non-competitive. Puncher's chance at this point, as you said, 2-2, anything can happen. But even not playing great games, and even Philly having a couple of epic games and guys go off, they're squeaking out wins in games 1 and 4. So I still think the Celtics, if you went minute by minute and looked at the totality of the series, are controlling play. But,
Yeah, mildly, I think. The game 2 and the second half of game 3 where they exploded from 3, that's the real advantage they have. And that is one decisive one that I think is the difference in the series right now that's going to help the Celtics win is their shooting. And their comfort shooting a ton of threes is so much higher than Philadelphia's for obvious reasons.
We're going to let Sherrod go because he's got other responsibilities. Any final thoughts, Sherrod, before you bail? And we're going to wrap up the show in a minute anyway.
No, I look, bottom line is they got to handle their business. They've got to get more from Tatum, Brown, and especially the damn coach, Bobby. He was part of the issue tonight, and I don't think there's any way to get around that. He's got to be better, particularly in those late game moments.
Yeah. Yep, fair enough. Sherrod, peace. Thanks, buddy. We'll tell you guys again before you all take off on us. Athletic Greens, one of our sponsors here at the Garden Report. You got to check it out. Go to athleticgreens.com/garden. Take advantage of that free deal over there. AG1, great nutritional supplement. You take it in the morning. It takes care of all of your nutritional needs rather than have to go out and shop for 85 million different pills and supplements and have a bunch of bottles in your medicine cabinet. Just get your AG1, 1 scoop, cup of water. You're done for the day. Mental, clarity, focus, recovery, gut health, immune system, all of that stuff.
Jimmy would say.
Down the hatch, Jimmy stacks it. Can't wait to get Jimmy back at some point or another, see what he's got to say about it. But
next game, right?
athleticgreens.com/garden, 5 free travel packs, lifetime supply of vitamin D, and this amazing t-shirt here. Shout out Bobby Manning.
Give me one.
Yep. Get that. The form is in the chat. Sign up and get yourself a t-shirt. Guys, final thoughts here as we look ahead to game 5. And again, you can't ask Joe about adjustments without getting a snide answer, but like, what if anything,
for real? Jeez.
What if anything changes for game 5?
Killer Instinct. I'm gonna just go with that one. Out of either one, whether it's Tatum or Brown. I feel like Tatum just was almost on the verge of that, but obviously was delayed through that first half slump. But I don't know if I said this, if I've already said this, but when he's trying to get out of that slump and he's doing it, his approach is to get to the free throw line and get to the rim. Like, I love that. That's going to go a long way against this team, especially in this series. And I'd be surprised if we get another one of those first half or second half slumps out of Tatum the rest of the way. But when I say Killer Instinct, man, I want him to really go for the jugular. Second half Tatum, just go into takeover mode, and I think that should be enough, especially with the way Jalen's been playing on both ends of the floor. I think that carries over into Game 5. I'm not too concerned about Jalen. I know he sort of disappeared here in the fourth quarter, but overall, I don't think we'll see him do that again in Game 5. But yeah, Killer Instinct out of Tatum for sure, especially in Game 5 and in the second. Or excuse me, in Game 5 and in the second half, at TD Garden. I think we're going to see something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think much changes. You know what you need to do here in terms of guarding that Harden and Embiid pick and roll. They'll definitely tinker with that, I think, to get guys in better spots and figure out where the help's coming from and when. It's concerning that those doubles came because Tatum said they didn't want to give up threes there. They didn't want to give up fouls. So that's got to change. Lineups, rotations, all that. That's going to tighten up as the series goes on, I think. Those bench minutes, those swung toward Philly, I felt like, in this one. Rob was good, but the moments he passed up shots inside were killers.
Rob was not good. Rob had a
defensively, he was good.
Rob had a decent second
mess.
stint. His head was all over the place in the first thing.
And Grant too, yeah. And George Niang getting going for Philly, 3 for 6 from 3 in this one.
That's what he does. You leave him open, he's going to hit some threes. So, Philly hit the shots, man. Philly should have won this game. Philly should have won it going away. Props to the Celtics for coming back. What stinks about this is not just, you have a chance to wrap it up at home and get this thing done and then just advance and wait for your opponent. As you said, Bobby, obviously now at 2-2, it's clearly obviously a series. You could have taken control of the series itself. But it also would have been one of the better, more galvanizing team wins that they've had all season coming back in that fashion. Really would have been an amazing game to be able to pull out. And they robbed themselves of that feeling of like doing what they did, which was clawing back, staying with it, not playing their best game, and then winning in a hostile environment and taking control of the series and almost essentially punching their tickets to the conference finals. So a great moment was there, and it turned into questions, answers, anger, and all of that stuff. Blame Joe, fire Joe, and a round of, doubts now heading into the rest of the series. So you can rationalize it by saying they probably never should have won, but man, what a great win that should have been. And their feeling and that vibe.
If we're stacking
the vibe
it
coming
up,
off of that is so different.
If we're stacking it up, you knew you'd lose one in Philly, in all probability.
No, you didn't. I thought no, you didn't. Once you won Game 3, you had a real good chance here to take this one down.
I just think generally when you look at a series, you think you're going to lose one of those 3-4s on the road. The Killers won, looking back on it. That's the one where you look and say,
sure,
that's why it's 2-2 right now, rather.
No doubt about it. But we're going to wrap it again. Thank you guys for hanging out. We're back on Tuesday. The entire gang will be down at the Garden for the most part, taking in the game. And now there is automatically a Game 6 in Philly, and they're doing it every other day. So it is a Thursday game, right? Thursday. So we're back.
Thursday. Yeah.
We're back. There'll be more content on all of our channels that you can check out. Of course, our Celtics YouTube channel, if you haven't already subscribed to that, and let me find it, Celtics All Access. Head over there. Exclusive Celtics video content at Celtics All Access on YouTube. You can also check out the audio version of this podcast, which will probably be posted in a couple hours as well, or for your overnight drive if you want, have it overnight and have it for your morning drive going to work Monday. If you want to rage with us, I can tell you the beginning is very angry, and then it gets medium, and then it gets angry again, and then we kind of calm down, and now we're mellow again. And
classic overtime loss vibes,
Classic overtime loss vibes. And as always, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Take advantage of 1,000 bonus bucks in no sweat first bet when you lay your first wager. Again, a no sweat first bet up to 1,000 in bonus bets. Just go to FanDuel.com/Boston. Once again, Celtics lose a very winnable game in overtime. They had it in their grasp. It gets away. Much more coverage, as we said, on all of our platforms, including check out Bobby Manning's written work at CLNSmedia.com. Guys, thank you guys. We will